This program is supported by grants from the Solon and Martha Dixon Foundation. The Alabama Wildlife Federation, working for wildlife since 1935. And the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute at the University of Alabama, providing educational and social opportunities for adults. Discovering Alabama is a production of the Alabama Museum of Natural History.
Many parts of the world today have become regions of endless urban expanse. Congested traffic, constant noise, and life always at a hectic pace. Vast corridors of sprawl where developed landscapes have replaced natural landscapes. Now imagine a place still rich with plentiful natural wonder. A place with communities still blessed with small town charm and a pleasant pace of daily living. Well, you don't have to just imagine. Such a place actually exists. Autauga County and its various communities, including its county seat, the town of Prattville, are found right here in the middle of Alabama.
And this part of Alabama is more than just nice. This is a region of some of Alabama's most significant history. I'm Doug Phillips. Come along with me as we look back across time and revisit this history. Enjoy the qualities of the place today and consider what might lie ahead for the region's future.
This program is about a land unknown to many people, a land that in many ways has maintained its native natural wonders, a place of bountiful backcountry, forests, streams, and wildlife more diverse than can be found in much of the inhabited world. Come along with me as we explore the wild wonders of this land. Come along as we discover Alabama.
Welcome to Discovering Alabama, and welcome to Autauga County, Alabama, a place rich with natural appeal. And true to its natural appeal, down through the heart of this region, a marvelous creek runs through it.
This is Autauga Creek. Autauga is a name traceable to early Indians in the region and their once prominent village of Autauga. And along this section of Autauga Creek lies the county seat, the town of Prattville.
Prattville is named after the early industrialist Daniel Pratt, who came here in 1833, and whose most notable legacy can be seen behind me, in the vestiges of the famous Pratt Gin Company.
We talk about industrialization. We cannot say too much about the impact of Daniel Pratt. In fact, a person can drive through Prattville today and still see some remnants of what Daniel Pratt did there.
Built by Daniel Pratt in 1839, the Pratt Gin Company was located on the banks of Autauga Creek so the company could access the main power source at the time, water power. This was Alabama's first industrial factory.
So Autauga County was a county that was settled basically by yeoman farmers, relatively few large plantations, which were further south in Montgomery County and south of there and west of there, until Daniel Pratt comes on the scene. And then all of a sudden, everything changes. He created an industrial community in an agricultural state. And that's amazing because Alabama had all of these incredible resources.
Daniel Pratt was drawn south to this part of Alabama largely because of the region's natural assets. And this is a region rich in nature.
Much of Autauga County's almost 600 square miles is gently rolling rural landscape, covered largely in forests, plentiful pine lands, and impressive tracts of hardwoods. Productive farmlands still abound across the county. The mighty Alabama River runs along the length of the county's southern border. And across the county flow numerous alluring streams: Autauga Creek, Swift Creek, Little Mulberry, and many more. Plentiful woodlands, lots of water. These were certainly natural assets attractive to Daniel Pratt. And
a main asset bringing Daniel Pratt here was the abundance of prime cotton growing land.
yes, cotton land here in Autauga County, but also across most of Alabama.
When you think about cotton is accounting for 1/5 of the gross domestic product of the United States. That's just mind-boggling. And then you think that 23% of all the cotton grown in the United States is grown in Alabama in 1850, 1860. Therefore, what you have is Alabama is the heart of the cotton kingdom. When we talk about the heart of Dixie, that's the heart we're talking about, is in the 2 decades prior to the Civil War.
By the mid-1800s, cotton was indeed king in the Alabama economy. The thing about cotton, though, after it's picked and before its soft fibers can be turned into cotton products, the tough cotton seeds have to be removed. And thanks to a young engineer named Eli Whitney, a machine was invented that could do this with ease and speed.
Right here, and you can see we've got saw blades here. And the saw blades grab the lint, the fuzzy lint, and they can pull it through these ribs. These are ribs here, it's called. And then the seed will drop out down here, and the seed drop out, and the lint goes back and gets blown back into the condenser to make the cotton bat of just pure lint.
The invention was called the cotton gin. And for Daniel Pratt, the main business of his Pratt Gin Company was making and marketing cotton gins.
Lots of people call this the mill. The gin shop was never a mill. It was a factory where they built cotton gins and sold cotton gins across the world. And we try to make sure people understand that it was the largest cotton gin factory in the world.
In 1860, 50% of all U.S. exports to the rest of the world, one product, cotton. So it wasn't just Britain's dependence. The entire cotton industry, textile industry in France was dependent upon Alabama and the South. The entire Russian textile industry was dependent upon Alabama and the South. And the gins are all coming from Prattville. It's the most amazing integrated economy. So, his vision is an industrial vision that is spectacularly ahead of its time.
So, from right here, along this creek in central Alabama, the influence of industrial advance reached worldwide. Daniel Pratt is best known for his manufacturing of cotton gins, but the Pratt legacy extends beyond cotton gins.
One of the first industries after the gin company he started was the door sash and blind company. And they distributed, sold windows and shutters, doors, that sort of thing, all over the southeast. Another industry he started was a horse mill industry that farmers could use for power. He had the carriage shop, wagon shop, a tin shop, a flour mill, a grist mill, and in 1846 he started one of the earliest antebellum cotton mills here in Prattville.
And more than the Pratt acumen for business, he was an advocate of things in the social realm. He was a promoter of things like quality communities, productive, happy people, quality of life. And these aspects of the Pratt legacy are still evident in these parts today.
In Prattville and across Autauga County, people still work, play, and worship with a spirit of neighborhood.
He derived a set of what we call in the early American period of our history, Republican values. Republican values were not the values of a political party. There was no Republican political party until 1856. And so the idea that Daniel Pratt brought was the idea of the founding fathers. Hard work, self-discipline, temperance, and I don't mean by that not drinking alcohol ever, but temperately drinking if you drank at all. A sense of moral accountability for your own life and social responsibility for the life of your neighbors and your community. Sense of communitarianism, that is, communities ought to function in terms of knowing each other, caring for each other, taking care of yourself, but when somebody falls on hard times, helping them out, all those values.
We as a community talk about character development, and we do that through our schools, through our civic clubs, through our government, and through our churches. So children learn at school, and at the same time their parents may be getting it at the civic club. I think the fiber of the people who still live here, that is directly a tie back to our founder.
Well, I think for us, the quality of life is really the people. We can talk about all those different types of things that we do have. You know, we've got the parks and the recreation and all of those things, but I think it's really the people that make up the community, and that's what keeps that kind of small feel there. I think that's an important piece that you don't find a lot of places.
Well, let's put it all in perspective as we can. When you drive into Prattville, even today, you can see remnants of times gone by. But at the same time, you can talk to those people and get an appreciation for some of that. Despite the proliferation of strip malls and areas where you see all sorts of new development taking place, Prattville has proudly held on to its past.
Local folks today, so as not to lose their history, are taking care to sustain their historical heritage.
Maintaining historical homes and other markers of notable history.
This book, where we can't...
Establishing a cultural heritage center and historical museum. And working to preserve artifacts of Alabama's earliest industry, the world-renowned Pratt Gin Company.
In 1899, the Daniel Pratt Gin Company merged with 5 other companies, and it became known as Continental Gin Company. When Continental Gin Company closed in 2012, we were on site requesting that the historic content from those historic buildings stay in Prattville and come to Autauga County Heritage Association. And since that time, we have been preserving the archives, and we're finding fascinating information as we're going through and preserving them.
So we are.
Meanwhile, plans are proposed to revitalize the aging structural essence of Prattville's beginnings.
Ann and Nathan, what you're looking at here is a rendering of the completed project of the redevelopment of the Pratt Gin Shop, one of the most iconic structures in the South. You're looking at a building that will be completed. It will have an actual public street running through it, and we will maintain much of the industrial look of the property when completed.
Another aspect of local heritage, Autauga County proudly claims a number of famous people.
It bothers me tremendously that whether you're black or white, if you talk about Prattville and Autauga County, the most prominent individual that anybody can name is Wilson Pickett, to come out of Autauga County. And that's during my lifetime. But what about the history of the area before that?
Yes, we have fairly famous people that lived here in Prattville. George Cook, a Southern artist, Sidney Lanier. Albert Pickett was from Autauga County. He wrote the first history of Alabama. We have a lot of rich history here.
And maybe you've heard of the great blues man George Wild Child Butler, born in Autaugaville in 1936 and destined to play his soulful harmonica in venues around the nation.
Local folks have also taken initiatives to retain the natural heritage of the region.
Back in 2009, 2010, I started floating this section of the creek with a couple of dogs down to the American Legion, about a half a mile down. About a year later, we founded a nonprofit organization with the help of the city of Prattville and a bunch of great volunteers. Can't say enough about them. We've come a long way. It's now a national recreation trail, as well as a member of the Alabama Scenic River Trail.
The county's many parks provide an array of natural attractions, from fun on the water at Cooter's Pond Park by the Alabama River, to adventure in the wilds of Wilderness Park, where, among other wonders, visitors can see stands of large bamboo, reminiscent of the giant native cane once common in these parts before settlement. Some people even consider the county's premier golf course to be a grand natural attraction. Since the early 1900s, Prattville has been nicknamed the Fountain City due to the scores of artesian wells that spring up across the area. The Autauga County Wildlife Management Area provides for the conservation of wildlife that inhabit the region.
Well, it's an extremely diverse area, a lot of wildlife. We've got extensive wooded areas, and then we've got a lot of streams. There's Autauga Creek, which is our real treasure. We've got Swift Creek and the landing out there. We've got Ivy Creek, many different localities like that that are just extremely diverse in wildlife. This is a gray rat snake. It's called that because it eats rats and mice. A lot of people in this area also call them chicken snakes because they find them in chicken yards. And they will eat baby chicks, but the main reason they're there is to find rats and mice.
With so much nature in every direction, something near and dear to me are the educational opportunities all this can provide.
I taught for 20 years in Autauga County, and during those years I had the opportunity to bring kids outdoors to learn about natural resources and get their hands in the dirt for some fun stuff.
It's important for them to learn it and learn positive things about outdoors, wildlife, nature, whatever, so they can keep it going after we're gone, you know, because there's a lot of work to do it right.
We need some heart shape. There's something.
Okay, we can keep that as the
This one has
point
needles on it. We need a green one.
Some red.
Students outdoors, students learning about the environmental basis of our world, learning about the environmental basis of life itself. So important. As the saying goes, our children are the future. And while we're celebrating the history of this region, embracing its present, we're led to think about the future. What will this region be like for the children of the future?
Today, this part of Alabama is enviable for its still abundant natural assets and its still comfortable appeal. Even as local leaders recognize things are changing in ways that could present new kinds of challenges ahead.
You know, we all talk about how we want to grow, but I think there has to be managed growth in some ways because we all want industry to come here, businesses to open. We don't want to be in New York and in Chicago because we don't want every single piece of land to be taken up by a building.
As we move toward every city wanting to increase its population, wanting to have the biggest malls, wanting to have the biggest stadium for the schools, if we are not careful, we're going to lose that intimacy that we had in our relationship with each other. We're not going to know each other.
Well, some of us are concerned about the county growing too fast. We can't stop development. There's no way to do that. And as long as the population of the area is increasing, we're going to see the effects of that. What we have to do, though, is plan for the future. We have to make sure that our natural areas are protected. We have some beautiful sites here, like the Autauga Creek, that need to be protected. As long as we have those areas and protect them, then we will have places that we can go out into nature and enjoy it.